So true. Wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. Before this happens, guys, I gotta do the little intro, and then we can go straight back into it. All right.
Okay.
I gotta for sequencing. I gotta do it. You know, I can tell that we're about to launch.
Is this already being recorded?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of noticed the like top left. I was thinking, oh, okay, well, you've got my authentic self in this past 5 minutes because I didn't know it's being recorded.
All right, cool. Well, let me kick this off. Welcome back, listeners, friends, to another episode 3 of the Small Teams Big Wins podcast. I am your host, Jordan, met with my co-host, Darien, and today we are with Grace Wheeler. And Grace, what's up, girl? Good morning.
Hi. Good morning. Yes, good morning.
Grace is the founder and CEO of Compozure, based in the Big Apple, NYC. And Grace, I love your business. I just love it. I love it so much. Like, I love the concept. I love the strategy on it. And I like the kind of source of where it stemmed from in your life. So I guess I'm asking if you could go ahead and share a little bit about that with our listeners. Maybe when you just like, what is Compozure, and kind of where it kind of grew out of in your life from the older consulting days to finding the time to juggle it all as a working professional, like we're all trying to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. So Compozure is a platform where we provide on-demand and on-subscription personal services to manage the essentials of people's weeks. We have personal chefs for meal prep. We have personal assistants for errands, travel booking. We have personal stylists for wardrobe fittings, event outfits, and a few other areas of personal services. And the idea is really to, especially for like busy New Yorkers, career-orientated professionals, busy families, it's really to take the load off of their life and manage the to-dos of their week, just making their lifestyle a bit more seamless. So that is Compozure, and we provide different professional experts to run those services. I guess I can go into how it started a bit. It was a bit more subconscious than conscious. I think it started off actually as like a personal styling platform, but that market at the time, this was a couple of years ago in 2023, it was getting a bit more saturated. There were lots of different innovations happening in styling and wardrobe fittings and things like that. There was a lot happening in the space, and I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm not one to like look at the data or look at like the math necessarily.
Like, I got a feeling I'm gonna go with it, you know, and I'm gonna, you know, the data will flush around my pursuit is what's gonna happen. Yeah.
So it kind of evolved from that of like, well, people need personal services, people need this styling, they're looking for that like leveling up, they're looking for that elevation. Are there other areas that maybe they're looking for that same concept in? And so that's where it sort of evolved from, I think, and we just added services, and then it's evolved into this platform of multiple different services when you need them.
Very cool. Yeah, very cool. Because you are from the northeastern New York area, is that correct? But have spent a fair amount of time across the pond?
So I was born in DC. My whole family is British. I grew up in England from 2 to 18, and then I came to North Carolina and New York for college and stayed after college in New York. Yeah.
Nice. And where'd you go to uni in North Carolina?
I went to Wake Forest in North Carolina.
Sweet. Nice.
Yeah, it was a very interesting experience as a British raised person. It's, you know, relatively small private school, lots of red Solo cups and fraternities and sororities, and that was something that was very new to me.
Oh, me and Darien know that side of it very, very well from the,
Where did you both go, actually?
So I went to Trinity University down in a smaller liberal arts school down in San Antonio, Texas. Believe it or not. Yeah.
And I went to UNC Charlotte, and actually that was pretty short-lived. Got kicked out. And
Did you?
Yeah, definitely. My experience was sorry, mom's calling me. Maybe I just got a new laptop, so I haven't fixed all the things here. But I got kicked out, and I think that really kind of fast-tracked my journey, to be honest with you, because it put my I never really honestly believed in that college was for me, and for a couple different reasons. But the main thing was it was more of a feeling than anything, and it forced me to get into the real world sooner. And by doing that, and I was always a person, I still am a person off of learning from experiences. And I think that there's for any single person, there's a perfect combination of things. Like for them, it may be just book smart, and that's what works for them. And then for other people, it's a combination, somewhat knowledgeable about, those things, and then very much street smart. And then there's me, some people like me, that's just like street smart all the way. And so I think ultimately it was great that it ended up happening, and I'm happy it did, but that's where I kind of went to college.
Yeah.
That's honest. Sorry, my reactions, I don't know if you noticed, were a lot in that, because I completely agree. Like I grew up never really being like top of my class or like super academically smart, and it always hindered confidence in like how life would then turn out, because that's all you ever really knew at that time. Like when you're growing up, you go to school, and like school's such a big part of your life, and I think you think it reflects a lot on then what it's going to look like. But you're completely right, there are so many different types of like intelligences or people, and like some of the best entrepreneurs drop out of university, don't even go to college, or like they never got top A's, or some people that, like, I don't know, become professors, like might not be street smart or whatever it is. And you're completely right, everyone has to find their niche, and everyone fits into the world differently. And I fully respect you for doing that, because as you said, if it didn't fit and you found your way in other ways, then full respect.
Yeah, and I think it's really about just like being confident, ultimately being confident about who you are and what you can bring to the table, and then just fully owning that. Because if you start to play the comparison game, you're just going to run yourself in circles, and then you're not going to really get anywhere with that. And so I think that that definitely plays a big part into that. And then some I guess that's kind of just a rabbit hole within itself. But nonetheless, I'm happy to have been kind of put out into the world a little bit sooner, and then been thrown into the fire a lot sooner as well. So
definitely.
And I think it's a really good point too, because like we all take a certain amount of time to kind of build up the courage, I think, to go pursue the entrepreneurial route. Like I don't think anyone has the idea or ideas, and then it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna act on this on my like first instinct. And so it's so interesting, Darien, working very closely with you, because my journey was kind of the complete opposite. I was like always very good at school, and I liked I'm an engineer, so I liked like the learning, and then but I also needed iteration, so I wanted everything to be like a lab, right? And like I wanted to like learn this stuff and then practice, because then that would be reinforce the stuff. But my gosh, like I was accounting and finance in undergrad, and I did like an internship with Deloitte, and I was like, oh my God, screw this, But then I went straight from more school right after school, right? And then it took me 7 years to eventually get enough confidence in my knowledge to then go take that leap and go, okay, I want to start my own business now, to whereas I think for you, and it sounds like some of with Grace as well, right, is like just sometimes being thrown in the fire is the best thing for you, because you get over that fear very quickly to where it's, yeah, I don't know. It was just an interesting point. That was kind of what was coming to mind. And it's so cool working with you now, because like I can tell the complementary approaches from both of us, right? And I think that's what makes our time working together, and what's making Naptic so much fun, is being able to understand and then see those kind of play out in just really cool complementary ways.
Definitely.
You know?
And I wonder how much of a part of like that.
I love you, bro. I love you, bro.
I love you too, bro. I love you too. That was a moment for ourselves, Grace. No, but
yeah, I'll leave. It's fine. You can do the podcast this session yourself.
Yeah.
But I wonder how much of that experience like kind of transitions and translates into the way we run companies, right? So like Grace, for you, can you tell us a little bit about where, how your background has helped you, one, manage really people, like how has that helped you manage people, and then ultimately allow how that has allowed you to grow?
Yeah, wow, that's I think that could go a lot of ways in how I answer that.
Yeah.
I mean, just like, first of all, it's really interesting learning a bit more about both of you, because I understand how that then works. Like, you need people around you that kind of that complement you, and like vice versa. And everyone is so different and approaches life so differently, and they've had so many different experiences, and that is valuable in every aspect. And I think when you're running a business, you surround yourself with people that complement you, and you complement them, because that's really important. Like, there are gaps in all of us, and there are really positive things in all of us. So it's really interesting that like learning more about your dynamic, because I can see that working really, really well, just based on like the backgrounds that you've just said. I mean, Compozure is a super people focused business, clients and experts. We're connecting people, we're constantly interacting with people. I think, I'm relatively young. Like, I haven't really done the whole corporate thing. I've never really, I worked in consulting, but for a small consulting firm for like 2 years. But that's been my most experience to like formal office or work life, or traditional work life. And I'm really grateful for how my parents brought me up, honestly, for who I am now. I had a very, very good like balance of who they were as people. My dad is, I think later in life he's become a lot more entrepreneurial himself, but he always had that very much at heart. And he's like a risk taker like me. He is like very confident, like very sure of himself. My mom is like super, like, she's a bit more structured. She is super caring. She's super empathetic. Like, she's really good with people. She manages people for her job. And I think they complemented each other really well as a parenting team, that then like those traits kind of got put on me in like a middle ground. I'm not as good with people as my mom, like in the sort of empathetic way, but she definitely taught me those things, and like how to really try and understand people. And then my dad like had the confidence, had the entrepreneurial spirit, had the like risk taking that then led me to that middle ground. So I think, as much as I'd love to say starting a company came, well, no, actually I wouldn't love to say it. As much as maybe some people come from starting a company from like, what they've experienced in work or like in life, in their adult life, I very much experienced it in childhood. And I think that's why it sort of started so early for me.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's, you have, if I remember correctly, over about 30 plus independent contractors kind of within your arsenal across the different services, which is amazing, especially considering that the idea started kind of 2023 and then has flourished, over the last 18 to 24 months. And it's also really, really impressive how you've been able to take the kind of high touch services, right, that historically have been thought of for your like A-list celebrities, or I don't know, just that kind of vibe, right? And then bringing it down to mid-market while still being able to maintain your brand of composure, right? That's so challenging, Grace. And I feel like you just crushed that. You know, it feels like you just crushed it, right? And I feel like part of that definitely has to do with New York is a great place for that. You know what I'm saying? New York with the high density population, people that are very professionally driven, working a bunch, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I also kind of just want to like move the conversation a little bit to just, you know, because like I know whenever I'm thinking about our business, right? And we don't have 30 people. You know, we base a lot of what we do in technology and using the latest to kind of become a force multiplier and that sort of thing. But gosh, like I just feel like I've used this analogy on like previous podcasts too, is like there's 30 plates spinning and like everyone's just kind of going around and just like, you know, using your toes a little bit. I'm like, Darien, can you grab this one over here? Darien's like, yeah, I got you, you know. And so, man, like as soon as you start throwing people, chefs that are super forward, client facing, that are independent contractors, I imagine that there's some challenges associated with maintaining that client facing like brand presence. And so on this podcast, we're very excited about the successes, right? But we also kind of want to know about some of the failures. Was there ever any times where there was some engagements gone wrong because of an independent contractor not meeting kind of with the brand or anything like that you'd be willing to share?
The answer to that is yes, 100%. Like, cool. To be, can I swear on this? Can I?
Yeah, of course you can.
Like, shit has hit the fan multiple times. You know, people, and don't get me wrong, yeah, like the majority of the time it's been great. We've grown a lot. It's been successful. If we're talking about the sort of challenges, shit has hit the fan a lot. I think, you know, I was thinking about this earlier, kind of, you know, you sent me that email, Jordan, of like, oh, some topics that we might cover and things like that. And one of the questions was this, like, humans are unpredictable. Right. And, you know, relying on humans, like everyone, as we've said, like this is the theme of the past 20 minutes, everyone is super different. And therefore, people are unpredictable. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean like you can't project yourself onto someone else. Like you can't think you understand someone fully. You know, you're constantly learning about other people. You're constantly like having to understand their needs, their wants, having to balance that with somebody else. Like if you're trying to make a relationship happen, and I mean like an expert to a client, us to a client, us to an expert. Like I think the hardest thing is that you can't predict what those challenges are going to be. You know, you, especially as Compozure, as like the middle ground, the neutral platform, the ones that are having to fix those problems because we are that pivot. We are that, I don't know what's a seesaw, like what's the thing in the middle of a seesaw?
I like the balance in between.
Yeah, the balance.
Kind of side.
Yeah, and so one might go this way and we're like, oh no, let's go this way. So that happens a lot. Like, and you know, we've had clients come to us and they're angry and like they're super, I don't know, upset about something. And then we have an expert that's come to us and they're super upset about something.
Right.
And
it can come from both sides, you know what I'm saying? And one could be right, you know.
And one could be, and like everyone has a valid opinion, and everyone like is, you know, probably upset for a reason. Like they're upset. There's a reason. But you can't ever predict what that's going to be, and you just have to deal with it in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know, I think the hardest thing is being able to navigate. Okay, if I if I deal with this one way, how does that affect the business now, and how does it affect in the long run? And sometimes you have to make really hard decisions in the short term that, you know, like, I don't know, letting someone go, or pursuing a legal ramification, or like financial ramifications that like might not feel very good in the moment, but you have to do it because in the long run, it's better for everyone.
Right.
And like that, you know, that's same with clients. Like a client might come to us wanting, I don't know, a huge discount because of this some reason, but giving them that might then set the expectation they might get it in the future. And like, we can't necessarily do that for the business. Or I don't know, an expert might come to us and want a pay bump, or they might want to not work with this client anymore and things like that. Like, I think, yeah, the hardest thing is balancing everyone's needs, trying to satisfy everyone, but also knowing like, okay, what does this actually mean? How do we make sure it's good for everyone in the future as well as in the moment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely. And you know, it's almost near impossible to not have anything bad happen in a industry like that, because you are dealing with people directly, and people are going to deal with things in their own way that you have absolutely no control over. But how you deal with it is what will, you know, what you ultimately do have control over. And you know, that's what's going to make the difference. And I'm curious of how, so like within this industry, you have to communicate probably almost nonstop in some sort of capacity, unless you have some very, you know, locked in system that is in some sort of aspect automated in some ways. Like I'm sure, you know, you can't dealing with the problems, it can't be automated, but maybe like receiving professional resumes and going through them, and then, you know, having to cross-reference that with how they're going to fit within your business, and if that service needs to be fulfilled with a professional, and maybe you have you don't have as many professionals that you need to hire in this category, and, you know, scheduling the meetings for that, and then the follow-ups, and then executing it, and then getting them to a schedule, and then assign them to a client. And so like all of that, I'm sure. Talk me through that processes of like how you started doing it, because I'm sure it was all just like by hand, if anything, it still may be, and or what you're doing now that has lessened or it just hasn't been as much of just physical work for you, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's a really good question, because it's something consistently on my mind, is like the scalability aspect. And, you know, doing everything manually isn't very scalable. So as much as like our platform and like Compozure will always be relying on humans, well, to some extent, like you have to then navigate, okay, how can we automate some processes? How can we like make them more scalable and therefore more efficient for everyone and like easier on everyone? And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. One of them is like hiring and like bringing on experts and automating that process. Like contracting out experts. We honestly, like, to answer your question, we're kind of in a middle ground at the moment. We very much did everything manually for the first year. Everything was manual hiring. Everything was manual customer success. Honestly, even with like some pricing, it was pretty manual. If a client came to us and needed this, and this, we would then do like a manual pricing quote sometimes. And now we're getting to a middle ground. One of the biggest things I want to automate is like our client's experience. So a new client coming onto our platform and booking a service, and like I'd like to put that onto an app, to be honest. Like that's on our roadmap, because there's a lot of logic in how that works and then how they get matched with an expert. At the moment, they come onto our platform, they book a service, and one of our team manually connects them with the right expert. But that's a very logical, like, we match a client with an expert on a very logical front. And so that could very much be translated into some technology doing that, an app doing that. You know, it's this, and this, okay, they're with that expert. So that's one thing we are currently very much working on. The hiring process too, like contracting out experts. We've tested a few different things. I think one of the hard things is knowing what that's gonna like when you hire people, or when you like go through a process of an interview, you actually don't know each other well enough. No matter how you conduct the interview or how you conduct the hiring process, it's really, really hard to actually understand what that person's going to look like or fit into. And also for them too. And so then putting automation on that, or like letting kind of a machine do that or a computer do that, I don't know I haven't quite worked out how that process looks. You know, maybe that's stuff we do in the future to like, I don't know, we do a 1 month review, or I don't know what it is, but yeah, that's a challenge. It's a real challenge.
Yeah. Well, I can see the wheels turning for Darien, because Darien comes from the wedding business in Asheville, North Carolina, and so I can tell, I can sense the spirit and some of that, and how that question is coming, because I could feel some of the experiences. I could feel some of the hiring process. I could feel some of the, okay, I'm hiring for a human connection driven business, but at the same time, there's enough moving parts to where I have to figure out some sort of way to assist in that while still keeping track of the brand and still keeping track of the externally facing presence of it all too. So I don't know, Darien, did that bring up any kind of memories for you from the venue or anything like that?
Gosh, I mean, it's you kind of hit it right on the head, like in the interview process. And I kind of, in the interview process, you really don't know who you're hiring, to be frank. I mean, you have, even if you spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to get a different person next week. You're going to get a different person a month in. You're going to get a different person a year in, if they make it that long, right? So how I kind of conducted interviews was relatively fast, to be honest, because I really just, if they made it to the interview stage, for me, it was that they fit the qualifications within their resume to be able to see me in person. And most likely, if they are at that stage already, I was already going to hire them. I just wanted to see if they would commit to the time they showed up for the time that they committed, and that they look reasonably presentable and that they have a fucking cool vibe. And if they essentially made it to that point and did have those three things, then I hire them, because at that point it was like, okay, I'm going to teach you everything that I know, and I'm not going to hold your hand after that. And it's not going to be a very long time from the moment that we first hit the ground running, to when we're not holding hands anymore. Because this is how I learned, is by, if I'm there for every mistake that happens and I'm solving every mistake that happens, then ultimately you're never going to learn anything. Like maybe you'll see how I react to that, but are you going to actually retain any of that information? And if I make the decision to do this and the ramifications come back on me, then, and you're not feeling those feelings of like, oh, that went wrong. And like, you're not going to lose any sleep at night, because I'm the one that's taking all of the grunt from making that decision. Right. So like, if someone else makes the mistake, they take, the responsibility for that mistake, then they'll definitely, respond in a different manner by doing that. And so, that's just a point to my like interviewing process. But like, as far as the automation part of what you were talking about, like I could see in your business, and I could be way off here too. So just feel free to correct me if I am. But like, not necessarily I feel like, and this probably goes for a majority of businesses, the automation of getting a person to meet with you, all of that could be automated until the point of meeting. And that even goes to when a resume comes in, and having that technology being able to recognize the resume, and the technology have a full understanding of the requirements that it takes to fulfill the specific need that you're trying to accomplish. And then it being able to give you a full summary of like, hey, this is the person that, this is why they'd be good, this is why they wouldn't be good, and then ultimately makes the decision based off of the knowledge it has on how you think, to be able to say, hey, it'll email them automatically, hey, we're going to be going another direction, or hey, we've scheduled you for a meeting here, or check this calendar to schedule a meeting. And then it ultimately gets down to, whoever it is doing the hiring process in person. But yeah, I mean, but that's the one thing that kind of came to mind as far as like when talking about interviews in general.
Yeah, definitely. You just like, a thought kind of crossed my mind when you were talking about resumes, and like you were talking about, if a person shows up and they look presentable and they're showing up on time, like, of course, that's giving you indicators beyond what their resume says. Mm-hmm. And I, like, for our team and just me personally, like I've always very much believed in like attitude and like your kind of personality beyond your resume. Like, if we're hiring for Compozure, I believe all the skills you need are teachable. And if you have the right attitude and you're a quick learner and like you're passionate, you're smart, you're interested in like what we're doing, then I want to know you beyond your resume for those things, because I think those things like longer term are more valuable and they don't show up on paper. Like, yeah, more valuable, actually, I do. I think if you're 20 years old and you haven't like got a hugely extensive resume, but yeah, you're a really quick learner, you're really passionate, I think those things they go a long way. But like contradictory to that, actually, like for our experts, is actually more about the resume, ironically, because ultimately, like what I've just described is our fit for our company. Whereas an expert, they're going to be working with a client, and every client is different. So I think actually our challenge on the hiring experts and like to client side is that the client and the expert's personality needs to fit as much as like their like say it's a personal chef, like as much as their cuisine and their availability and their location needs to fit. Actually, what keeps a client expert relationship, and therefore what's good for all of us, is their communication style, their personality fit.
Right.
And we can't determine that when I hire a chef. Like, I'm not going to determine, oh, you're not the right fit because culturally you're not the right fit. Because actually, like, you might, like, there are plenty of clients that would fit with your communication style and your attitude. I can't determine that. So it's kind of interesting, because on the Compozure side, it would be very different. But on the expert side, it's very resume focused.
Interesting.
It is very interesting. Yeah, and it's what's coming to mind as you guys are talking, is just that there's a certain amount of openness you need to have in order to operate in the entrepreneurial space, and just knowing that, hey, inevitably, some things are gonna, or just, going, hey, like, need to kind of just move forward, go with it, and kind of see how it works out. And then there historically where I've been, I would say more so, is, you can control what you can control, right? For me, I've historically like tried to program machines because I can control more.
Control it, yeah.
It's like I very much like want to have my little symphony of like orchestra, and my like stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Those are just some things that were coming to mind as you guys were talking.
How did you both meet?
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, you got this.
Oh, I got this. Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact day, but in general.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. It was a while ago. All right. So Grace, I'm a bit of a vagabond, right? So I told myself a long time ago was that if I'm gonna sit on a computer and be like programming machines and like doing engineer stuff, well, I ain't gonna be doing it from a cubicle, and I'm gonna do it out in nature, and I'm gonna be kind of cruising and doing all that. So I have this travel trailer that I like tow behind on my truck. I got Starlink on there. Lived in New Zealand for a few years before I came back to the States and started doing the travel trailer thing. But but so just working full time, doing the kind of digital nomad thing. And so during my journey, I had met Darien. I had met you like a year prior to this stop back into Asheville through a mutual friend. But yeah, I went to Bonnaroo, a big music and arts festival in Tennessee, followed my buddy down to Florida, ended up being in Florida for about a month and a half, and just kind of made my way up to Asheville. And then I ended up staying at Darien's wedding venue in their off season, just out there with the trailer, and we got some good time to hang out and really reconnected on a much deeper level. And then what was this? This was about 5 months ago, Darien, where we kind of reconnected just over some automation ideas for the venue. And that spurred into kind of one thing led to another. And then that spurred into us going, well, let's go ahead and create Naptic and like give this a shot. And it's a good, this is kind of a good segue actually into, because I did want to bring this up on the podcast. So from the technical side of just kind of where we're at with like automations and like AI and different stuff like that, whenever we were all kind of schmoozing before we got the podcast going, I told you guys, I was like, hey, this has actually been a pretty big last 16 hours as far as developments in this space and stuff like that. And so, what happened 6 months ago was that we all woke up one day and the game changed, right? Google CEO woke up one day, the game changed. It thought everyone woke up and the game totally changed, in the sense that we now have the computing and processing power to take massive amounts of unstructured data and structure it very quickly and then do something with it. It's a pretty incredible day and age, right? So what happened was that capability had to start like kind of very protected, right? It was like OpenAI's got all this like, machinery, the data centers, whatever, and then they can build out these models and they can run the models, and then you have to go basically like use their model against your infrastructure to do it, right? Well, all of a sudden now, this has been a huge shift in the last 24 hours, is that AI has gone way more open source. And OpenAI just came out with their open source models that can run on a 16 gigabyte phone, right? So now all of a sudden, to be able to have this LLM model, you can now run it locally on your laptop, on your phone, all that kind of stuff. And as far as security and privacy concerns go, for the people that are much more security, like, dealing with like highly sensitive data or stuff like that, you want to keep the data localized within your environment. So that's the one thing that's kind of changed the game in the last 18 hours, was that all of a sudden you can get these really high powered LLM models that can run on your phone. It's like, how did that happen so quickly? It was crazy, right?
Not to sound completely naive, Jordan, but what is an LLM model?
So a large language model is the basis of what like ChatGPT, AI models, like that's what AI models are. They're large language models, and they take massive amounts of data points to train this model to be able to inference what the next thing will be. So for example, when I take our previous transcript of kind of our podcast pre-session, and I'm hearing about your story and we're talking, whatever, and I go, hey, like, here's some things I know that I want to touch on with Grace, combine this transcript with my thoughts. The model is inferencing what that should be, right? So it's not creating necessarily something completely new. It's inferencing based off of data points that we give it, based off of kind of some of the direction that we want to go. So that's just kind of like, I could go a lot deeper there, but like that's the kind of underlying infrastructure for LLM models. Now, LLM models, they need like a ton of power to do it, right? So this is now enters into the whole environmental discussions, this kind of thing, because now and this is why this whole AI revolution is also tied to identifying more efficient ways to create power and energy, right? Because you can take this processing power and put it towards really complex things because it's got perfect memory and it's got a higher computing power than, kind of like a human, right? But it doesn't have the human element. So it can be stupid and sometimes in that. But yeah, I don't know. So it just brings up a whole, kind of a whole interesting kind of movement. But now that we're moving into open source, well, whenever things go open source and technology, they become available to the masses, right? You can start seeing a lot of creativity happen with them. And that's essentially what just happened. That's why it's huge, because now all of a sudden this incredible technology that was generally kind of hidden behind OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever can now be run very efficiently on my phone or on my laptop, right?
Got it. Okay.
And so and now the challenge is, sorry, last point, Darien. Now the challenge is for us on the Naptic side is how do we deliver that in an approachable way to small business entrepreneurs, people that are wearing all the hats, and show them. And they're like, moving to open source also makes it more affordable, right? So now the price point for this stuff kind of comes down a little bit. So our challenge is really like, as technologists, we also believe, like, on our side, that even though we work heavy in technology, everything is around human connection, right? We're using technology to improve human lives, right? So that's kind of the whole, learning a little bit more about Naptic, right? That's kind of like our mission and our drive is to kind of take that approach. So sorry, go ahead, Darien.
Well, I was just going to ask you, for people that may or may not understand any of that or a little bit of that, or even for just like people in business that could utilize this, can you tell anyone, or even like in knowing a little bit about Grace's business, how she or anybody, and for that matter, could utilize like this new idea of open source AI into their business and how they could run it locally? Well, you don't have to explain how to run it locally, but how any small business owner or anyone could utilize this into a business, and what that technology would look like, and maybe even using just Grace as an example.
Yeah, for sure. So everything's all around, it's a data-driven world, and these are data-driven techniques, right? So generally for businesses such as yours, Grace, I don't know if you use Google Workspace, Office 365, but I'm sure that you're an idea engine and you're an entrepreneur and you're constantly thinking about new ideas across the verticals of your business. So like operations, marketing, and what all the other ones, right? Support's going to be a big one for you, right? So I guess probably what I would say, and what the whole open source transition has done, has made it more affordable for you to have an AI assistant for each one of the verticals within your business, but to also then section it to the data around your business. So it's fully aware of, who your experts are. It's fully aware of, your ideas as the business owner, but you can section it off. So I guess let me just back up. So you're now being able to get insights that are very tailored to your business. And so if you're seeing a whole bunch of, kind of support types of questions or frequently asked questions, right? Well, maybe previously you've had to manually receive those inquiries and then respond, when it's in reality, if you look over the 2 years of inquiries that you've gotten, there's probably a list of just kind of like frequently asked questions that could easily be served back to them, but it hasn't really been affordable yet, nor has it really been tailored to the data around your business. Both of those things are not true anymore, right? Now it's affordable and the data is there to where it's like, okay, we can sync up to a support shared Google Drive, and it can be able to see the support requests. And because we can run it locally, we can actually protect that from having to send data to another place where, like to send data to someone else's infrastructure where you're not really sure what happens there. You're not sure how they're using that data to train their models. You're not sure if they're storing it. You're not sure about that other stuff. It coming locally allows you to have full control over your data. And that's why there's a huge movement in data privacy these days. And that's why actually moving open source actually helps data privacy, contrary to what people might think.
Yeah, so, I guess it kind of feels unintuitive, but yeah, now that you've explained it, that makes a lot more sense.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, that definitely. And thank you for asking that question, Darien, because that was actually really helpful to sort of think about it, of how that actually works. It's really interesting because, we, our team uses AI, we use ChatGPT or we use Claude or whatever platform you want to use. But the way we use it at the moment is it's like a check. It's not a creation. It's not a do this for me. It's I've written this email or I've done this, or this is the problem. This is what I think the solution is, or this is what I think the reply is. Check it. And sometimes it kind of gets it right, sometimes it kind of gets it wrong, and then we'll give it more context and it will get it more right. But the reliance on it isn't you can't rely on it or the way we're using it because it doesn't have the full context, or it doesn't know your business fully. You're just it's in an isolated moment that you're asking it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you've just described is so much more helpful for actually understanding the humanness almost, because you're actually understanding the context, you're actually understanding the business, you're understanding it on local level as opposed to this grand scheme level.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not too hyper broad. Sometimes you can actually throw too much data at it that maybe you don't want for this specific focus, right? So the secret's actually for things that you want, brainstorming broad ideas, that kind of thing. Okay, we'll keep it broad. But if you want hey, I want you to respond to answer to these frequently asked questions based off of my business. Okay, I need to show you, I need to section it off to this data right here that specifically talks about the support questions that we've been seeing over the last year, right? Instead of, hey, what marketing's trying to do right now, or what, you know what I'm saying? So we've now finally gotten to the point where we can segment the context around the actions of our AI agents, and you can have one across every vertical of your business, basically. And I'm a firm believer in that too, because it is it's kind of like the Industrial Revolution right now, back in whenever the Industrial Revolution happened.
Yeah, I mean, it basically the Industrial Revolution.
I was not about to throw out a date, I can tell you that. I was like,
I mean, a bit more recently, when the internet came out, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was a similar thing, I don't know, my grandparents didn't have the internet. They didn't have Google. That was just not a thing. And then my parents very much, and me honestly, when I was growing up, computers suddenly they started being invented, and then the internet started being invented, and that whole .com era completely changed how people were accessing data and accessing answers. Before you'd have to go to a library and look it up in a book. That's a lot less efficient than being able to Google search something. Now we're going to the next level of even more efficiency. And there's a lot of of course there's a lot of controversies, and there's a lot of questions around what that looks like, as I'm sure there was with the internet, as I'm sure there was with the Industrial Revolution.
Oh yeah. Nice.
But it's just like how you navigate that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so it's such an interesting era, and I think like our lifetime has shown a lot of change, very fast change.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, people deal with uncertainty and the unknown. Everyone deals with it in different ways. Some are like, whoa, like this is so exciting, I want to dive straight in, and some are just like, no, I'm terrified. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, that's always going to be there. There will come a time, like, it is very like paradoxical, because it's like, you know, I am a believer in climate change, and I do think that a lot of this progress is going to have adverse impacts. But I also know that the computing power and the processing power and implementing these workflows is what we need to be able to tackle the challenges that we don't really have answers to right now. You know what I'm saying? Or to turn the tide in a lot of ways, right? You know, like, for example, like, a lot of people don't realize that, you know, there's massive polar caps on both sides of the moon, right? On either side of the moon, that is basically just a large gas station that can make rocket fuel, right? So there's like sulfur and
these are amazing facts,
and hydrogen, like, you know, all that stuff there. So it's like, I know, for example, I've talked with several people that are working towards figuring out, like, hey, if we were able to get to the moon and harness, it's a huge gas station. It's like it's the largest gas station close to us, and it's our moon, right? That's kind of cool, you know. Like, I don't know, like, that's kind of cool. Like, I like exploring, you know. So maybe there's something to be checked out there, right? I don't know. So we're starting to get down a nice little rabbit hole, which I don't want to go too far down, because
we went to space. We
yeah, like, no, but I'm serious. Like, it's crazy. Like, literally at the moon's, like, you know, polar caps are just it's just this huge reservoir to making rocket fuel. Tell me how that, like, doesn't kind of add up to, you know, like, a little bit, right? Like, it's kind of cool, you know.
That's actually pretty insane. I've actually never heard of that before, which I'm surprised. That I'm gonna fact check you.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up after.
Yeah.
Dude, look it
No,
up.
but I was you know, I'm curious. I think that you know, using like ChatGPT within your business, I think is the first step into like honing in on how to do things a little bit more proactively and progressively, and allowing you to have more time on your hands. And I think, like, effectively using ChatGPT for just like checks like that, I think some things that there may be some like helpful things that could take place. Like, for instance, if there's certain circumstances that are happening all the time, when you're using it, just like asking it that one random question, right? And it's not understanding the full context of what the situation is, then having the prompt that you give it, the same prompt, like you're probably asking it similar questions, but within that question, giving it the same prompt. So like, why, like it really could be anything, but.
And you're talking like the prompt structure, right?
Yeah, the prompt structure. Yeah, like the output that you really like, the output that you wanted to have, the tone that you wanted to have, the general idea of where, like, what it's going to accomplish. And like, if I was making a newsletter and I was ahead of a newsletter production, and I wanted to overview the newsletter every time, you know, my graphic design team brought it to me, then I would think one way multiple times of like how it needs to be changed based off my way of thinking. So if I'm able to get my graphic design team to prompt that exact experience of what would happen in my brain every time before it even came to me, then by the time it came to me, it would be, you know, pretty close to what I've already would have said anyway. So yeah, I think that could be helpful, and prompt engineering is a pretty interesting thing to go down if you end up wanting to look into that a little bit more. But I think like staying consistent is the main thing, because when you're asking it just a random question at a random point in the day and not understanding the full context, like, it's going to give you multiple different outputs every single time in general, like whatever it wants to think that day.
Yeah, no, and that's really helpful. And I don't know, I've heard that a lot, like sort of the, you know, prompt engineering and like the way you write a prompt is really important. And I'm kind of an impulsive, like impatient person.
Yeah.
A little, so I'm just
Well,
like, I don't really
totally
care. Just get the answer right.
Yeah, like what I've kind of been doing too is in working on different prompts is like I'll take sticky notes, since not everyone, like it's easy to have a sticky note on your laptop, and then, you know, like for one sticky note can be general, whatever the subject is that you normally have, that you're normally inputting into ChatGPT to ask it for an output, right? And then use that sticky note and create the general prompt, and then you just copy and paste that along with the question that you are inputting anyways. So it's like, I want these 4 things to happen. Here's the question. So you just copy and paste those 4 or 5 things or whatever. It could be 20 things. And then you paste that question that is that you're frequently using, or whatever statement it is that you're frequently using, along with that copy and paste section. That way you don't have to retype it every time, and the sticky note's always going to be there. And then you could even make it for Google Drive. And then you could go as far as like when using it with Jordan, like what Jordan's referencing, what Jordan's saying, like that's what those stacks of open source like operations, marketing, hiring, like each one of those stacks has its brain that's built off of the way you think, the way you want it to be run, and the way it should be operating. So when something reaches that, it thinks internally to exactly the way you want it to think, and then possibly reaches out to the other parts of your team that are also AI, and then you may have like an overall hierarchy structure where you have like an agent that is basically your brain, and then it reacts to what came in to that specific field, and then all those agents talk within each other, and then gives it the most dialed in output that you possibly could. But that kind of just brings it back to what Jordan was expressing earlier.
Yeah, Darien's going nested, baby. That's what we call nested. It's straight nesties. Straight nesties on that.
I don't even remember. Was there a question?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a good train of thought.
And honestly, like, I mean, just finishing off this, we have an SEO team, and like we're having to create new content and like bring in new stuff to our platform, like our website. And the SEO team, you know, hasn't been part of building the brand at all. Like the content they're creating isn't always in our brand voice, or like in the way that Compozure would say it. Mm-hmm. And so like we're having to translate that, and we're using AI to be able to do that. But to your point, like if I just put what they've written into AI, that AI will be like, it's great. But if I give them the context of, no, put it in the Compozure brand voice, this is the Compozure brand voice, it's obviously going to be a lot more like accurate to what we need it to be, as opposed to, just sort of generic an answer based on that singular piece of context.
And your voice starts to disseminate through the rest, disseminate into the business that everyone is accessing, right? So it's like you're able to kind of control the river, and then everyone's being able to put in a straw and get something from that river that's in the same, it's from you, right? Like it's you're the one building the business, right? And when you have ideas, it's very important to have those ideas be able to go into the river from where everyone's grabbing samples from for various pieces. You know what I'm saying?
I think, Grace, one thing that might be helpful to you that you could do pretty easily in a short amount of time, I think would be, Jordan, you want to just, before you kind of start closing things up here, do you want to tell Grace a little bit about Naptic Boss Agent, and then how, like, instead of her just inputting things into ChatGPT and expecting output in a Compozure voice, like how she could essentially just generate a Compozure brand voice that she's using that custom GPT agent every time for all inputs, and having her team use that same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Naptic boss agent is a custom GPT that we created in GPT Teams. So whenever you go into GPT Teams, should I just demo this thing real quick?
Yeah. What haven't we?
That's live
demo?
demos.
Yeah.
Live demos. Let's go. All right, tell me when you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we have the Naptic boss agent, right? So something that I created right at the beginning, right? Fellow entrepreneur with perfect memory and a knack for AI automation. So one piece of creating your own custom GPT, which is, Grace, you guys have a custom GPT or are you just hitting up ChatGPT?
I'm just using ChatGPT, but someone mentioned custom the other day, and I think we need to start using it. So this is actually really useful.
Oh my God, this is gonna blow your mind. Okay, sweet. So whenever you have like your custom GPT, right, you can come in and give it your own set of instructions. So we have like this kind of templated set of instructions across business vision alignment, continuous learning, brainstorming, written communication, like all this stuff, right? I tell it not to use emojis, but it doesn't listen to me sometimes.
Actually, I've noticed that it does like to use emojis. It also really likes to use tables and bullet points.
Yeah, and now I like it. You know, I like the emojis. You know, I don't know. It's
gotten used to them lightening up the text.
Yeah, it's converted me. You know, it's all good. But so here, like, I can select a model, right? So this is like an LLM model, like I was telling you before. And so different LLM models have different,
they're good at different things.
Like power, like magnitude. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you might need more, but you don't have to worry about that right now. Just the general model.
Okay.
But what's really key is, and this is where we talk about, this is kind of like intro to context for AI in your business, right? And so you have what's called a knowledge bank right here, which the way that I relate it to people is that these are like the core grounding pillars from which your GPT will reference to then make the next inference, right? So core grounding pillars. Now, also what it'll do is it'll learn slightly in memory from your previous chats, right? But it doesn't remember all your previous chats as much as it is going to go, like the stepping process is going to go, okay, I'm going to go check out the core grounding pillars in my knowledge bank first. And then I'm going to use chats to kind of make the next inference. So your knowledge bank is really, really influential in creating the personality of your GPT, right? So what we do is we have this idea of brain docs and brain feeds. So I know like what I like doing is, I have like different metaphors that I like, whatever, right? So like, for example, like this is me just totally going off on like a brain feed. It's like an idea that I have for the business and for what we're creating, right? And so I tell it to create these things called brain feeds, right? So it'll come and capture the brain feed, and then we have an automation set up. Not sure if I should show the Slack, but I am going to anyways. So we have a brain feed section right here where, I can come in and I can put, I think this is what the brain feed was, right? So we come in, send it to our internal ops agent. I can come and approve it, right? And it immediately gets uploaded to let me not show away all the crown jewels. Okay. So, so this is our, right? So this is our brain doc, right? And so it'll come down and it'll append, it'll append whatever it is that, I submitted, right? To the brain doc. And so currently we kind of have like a manual process for taking this brain doc, and then I can come right here and then I can go edit GPT if it decides to work. Nice. So, and then, you know, I can just boom, exit that out, and then I'll just re-upload the brain doc. And now it's got the new information, right, that I riffed off of. And now it's disseminated through the organization. So everyone is now, whenever they interact with it, it's going to have this in mind, right?
Got it. Okay.
So the next evolution of all of this, which is where like what's really cool, is there's like a platform called Onyx, which, and this is like the open source kind of movement, has been like, now we're actually able to silo this context using connectors. So like I can have connectors that come in, and like I can have a personalized kind of AI assistant, AI agent for the different areas of my business, and I can sync it up to, you know, areas of like a Google Drive, right? Or I don't know, I can kind of get more, you know, I can just get very like much more hyper focused on specific verticals within your business. But the connectivity is, you know, is kind of much improved from all that, and the security side of it is much improved too. So.
Right. So like on the sort of simplest level, it's like the improvements that are happening is like it's understanding the context of everything. It's understanding as if you understand it, like your historical context, your understanding, like now it's able to do that because it's using that to then create, like whatever prompt you're putting in that singular moment, it's using all of that to then create the answer.
You can connect up whatever data within your organization that you want for these specific assistance towards the verticals in your business.
Got it.
Which is pretty incredible. Like that. We finally gotten there. Now it's not just like, oh, okay, like let me go hit up ChatGPT about, you know, this thing. Well, ChatGPT is thinking about, you know, the entire history of coffee or something. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, well, I don't really care about coffee. I don't really need you to know that, you know, how coffee was, you know, done or whatever. And that's just like a stupid example, right? But just being able to be hyper focused on the data that you want it to be referencing as its core pillars. That's ultimately how you're going to get the brand. And then people can use that. And so you wouldn't even have to train your SEO people. They would just be utilizing that too. And it would already be generating SEO content that's in line with your brand, because that's the source, right? It's from the river.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, you know, creating that custom GPT, like you have to give it that brand voice. You know, you need to store those documents inside of its internal brain so that it's referencing that every single time that you want to interact with it. Like for instance, I made one for I made one for my real estate firm, like a real estate agent, right? And when you join a real estate firm and you have a set of guidelines that real estate firm lives by, right? So the broker in charge creates these guidelines, and everyone in the firm needs to abide by them, basically. And it's probably about 60 pages, and how the fuck are you gonna remember what the fuck's on that page at any sort of given moment? So, you know, just to put this in perspective, like taking that exact document and putting it into this custom ChatGPT, so it always is able to reference the guidelines of the business, so that you're never doing anything outside the guidelines of the business by interacting by a simple question when you're out in the field, when you're doing anything, and it's always able to like keep you in line. But not only that, but also you can, like, let's just say you're in North Carolina, but taking the North Carolina Real Estate Commission's license laws and regulations and then inputting that into there as well. So you're not just following your firm's guidelines, but you're also following North Carolina real estate guidelines. So you're as compliant as possible. And then, like, to take it a step further, like what if you were able to turn that real estate agent into your broker in charge? So for instance, if you're not familiar with real estate, like the broker in charge has to you could be a part of like a firm like Keller Williams, where maybe there is like 100 real estate agents within that local firm, and that broker in charge is responsible for all the actions and repercussions of what one real estate agent does. So it's like, how can you manage 100 different people that are doing 100 different things all at the same time? So if someone had access to that custom GPT that was able to ask that broker in charge a question immediately and then get a full response that's fully compliant without the broker in charge ever having to do anything, like actually in life, towards their real estate agents, then it would help streamline all the communication within that business. So needless to say, like, you would just have to create your brand voice and then implement your entire brand voice, and then just continue like Jordan showed you how simply he's made it to update the Naptic's brain feed, and to always stay like up to date with how you want the business run, because it's obviously always evolutionizing or whatever.
Evolving.
You're both such a wealth of knowledge on like so many different topics. We've covered real estate, AI, we covered space. Like, I'm just gonna hire you guys. I don't need AI.
Fuck yeah, let's do
it. But yeah, Grace, we'll go ahead and send you like literally like this, the little second improvement in addition to open source has been being able to retrieve the information that you want to be within your context. That has massively improved over the last like 24 hours. So the thing that the kind of next steps that I showed you on all that stuff is like, that's what I'm going to dive into today. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be sure to capture once I get a more proven out concept. I'll reach out to you and I'll show it to you. And and it should be kind of a game changer. That's what fun. That's what's so much fun about like all of this. It's like, some of the things that we were working on last week weren't like working as well. And then all of a sudden in a week, this like stuff came out that's totally changed it. Like totally like, and we're like, oh, okay, that's the piece of the puzzle that we need. And it's so fun kind of week to week, because we had to work very hard to finally get to where we could keep up with the pace, because the pace is like out of this world right now as far as like people that are building and creating stuff in this space too. So it's almost just super challenging just trying to stay up with the latest, because there's just such like a wealth of information out there that you actually have to like really work to like discern through. Okay, it's like, okay, how can I take that and apply it to what we're doing over here? So nice. This has been a fun podcast. To your point, Grace, like we really have covered a good amount. Yeah. Well, Grace, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Darien, for you in the evening. Darien, you gonna go surfing tomorrow, dude?
Dude, well, first I have to make it through my next appointment. I've got another appointment that I ended up scheduling, and then I'm gonna get a good night's sleep. And actually, we were supposed to get our it's more efficient to get usually your scuba license certifications or advanced scuba license certifications, or just continuing that anywhere else but the US, basically. And so we were supposed to do it tomorrow, but the waves we had like the biggest swells of probably the year since starting Monday, Tuesday, and today, Wednesday. They actually had their 26th or something rip curl tournament on Padang Beach today, which
rip curls on Padang, yep.
But nonetheless, they had to cancel our scuba advanced certification tomorrow because the waves are too crazy. But more work probably.
I got you. Well, Grace, to finish it up, is there anything that you want to leave people with Compozure? Any fun things that you got coming out? Where can they find you? Compozure.co.
Yes, Compozure.co, definitely. Also email us at service@compozure.co with any questions. yeah, I'm always here on LinkedIn, or like we're on composure.co if anyone wants to reach out. So no, I really appreciated this session today and loved getting to know you guys better. It was awesome, and I see why you both work as a team, and it was great getting to know more about Naptic and where you are heading and what your lives look like. And yeah, it was awesome. I'm really appreciative of it.
Super cool. We appreciate you guys. You keep crushing life. I'm sure you guys are going to continue to head to paths that you don't know that's even possible. So keep pushing forward and deal with the day to day, and have that forward thinking that got you to where you are right now. And you'll be great. We look forward to staying in touch and supporting you.
Yeah, I'll keep in mind if I head up to NYC.
Yeah, definitely. Please do. Yeah, please do. And me too. Like Bali, South. Wherever I'm going, I'll let you know.
Absolutely. We'll get a proper coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely needed.
Love it. Alrighty, guys. Yeah, y'all have a great rest of the day, the morning, the evening, wherever it is that you're watching. Thank you to our listeners. And yeah, guys, everyone have a good one.